Well, hello and Merry Quiltmas Eve. It is about to be that time of year again, and it's hard to believe that we're already here. I feel like it was just January and then the summer came and the summer got busy and poof, it's now December starting tomorrow and it's time to get quilty. So thinking back on Quiltmas's past, I was debating what I wanted to do for this year. So 2022 was my first little Quiltmas video series that I did, and I kind of just did a little bit of this, a little bit of that each day. Not even necessarily Christmas themed, I think. I hardly remember. It's such a blur. And then in 2023, I did, what did I do in 2023? 2023, I feel like was another year of kind of Christmas themed. I know I made that little advent calendar, which is set to go up. I made stockings one year, I made a table runner one year, I know I did pajama pants and an infinity scarf and all this other stuff. And so last year, 2024, was where I got very specific, and I felt like getting a little more specific was kind of where to go. And so last year, it was specific, but it was crazy. I made those I think it was five quilts for my husband's college friends who were also his groomsmen in our wedding. And then I also made those sheep quilts at the same time. So last year was a very quilty year. And so this year, with everything that's been going on and coming up, I wanted to still do Quiltmas, but take it a little step back. So I am going to make one quilt this year. So each day is going to be a different block. And I kind of went back and forth on what I was going to do for that. So first, I was thinking I would do some of the blocks from Tula Pink City Sampler, but because of that, I would be able to give much information, a tutorial, because it's a copyrighted pattern and the information is just not out there on the internet just to like hand out. But while I was searching, I did find a website that had a bajillion, that's a true number, free patterns that were accessible for anyone and everyone to use, and it was perfect. And that website is generationsquiltpatterns.com. I will put a link because there's some hyphens in there, but they have a bunch of free patterns and they're all great information. And from there, I was like, okay, I'll do 25 blocks. But then I was debating on the size of my blocks. And so at first I was thinking I'd do 12-inch blocks because who doesn't love a good 12-inch block? But then, like I mentioned in my last video, after my butterfly quilt, I really wanted to do something on point. So I am going to do this Christmas quilt on point. So I'm going to do all my blocks. They're going to be on point. They've got so many good patterns on here. I was hard to decide. So what I did to pick out my patterns is I went through their list, and I will link the list as well that I searched through because I'm not even sure how I got to that list anymore. But I went through and picked all the ones that were either a star block or looked like a star block because I was like, oh, it's Christmassy. We'll get some stars and kind of put them on point and they'll be super cute and super fun. But then when I thought about a 12-inch block on point, knowing how big that butterfly quilt was when those were about 10, 11 inches on point, I felt like that was going to be really big, especially if I wanted to put sashing in there. So on these blocks that you're gonna see me do over the next 25 days, they're all gonna be 6.5 inch, so 6-inch finished blocks. And I think that is gonna be a good size. Worst case, I end up putting borders on it to make it a little bit bigger. This may end up being a donation quilt in the end. I'm not 100% sure. So we'll see what happens. And on top of all that, I had to pick a colorway. And so originally I was thinking I would do some Christmas fabric with the leftovers from that snowflake quilt I made a couple years ago. But then we can't find the box. Like, I think I gave it back to my mom. My mom thinks I gave it back to her, but we're not sure what void it disappeared into. So with that, I was like, well, I'll just search my stash. So I started looking at reds and greens in my stash and thought I might need to do more. But then I was like, well, I'll ask the internet what they want to see. So I asked my Instagram and my YouTube, you guys, and turns out you guys threw me for a loop because I put out, do I do traditional red and green or do I do some wintry blues? And it was like way over 50% that said winter blues on both of my polls. So that's what we're gonna do. These blocks, these 25 star blocks are gonna be shades of blue from my stash. If there's a background color or something that was just two colors, I did that as a white. So I'm using my white on white and a lot of my blues, which I'm surprised I had any left over from my previous scrappy project from this spring. And so with that, I also had to figure out how I was going to do these. Like, how was I going to decide what order to do these in? How was I going to decide which block comes first? How am I going to do this? What's going to happen? And so I went to my friend, the spinner, our name wheel, and put all the block names in there. So let me show you my notebook that I wrote everything down in to figure out my order and what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. And then we'll go from there to get ready to kick off Quiltmas officially tomorrow.
So that you can see kind of a little more of what I've been mapping out. So this is the look of the quilt on point. So it'll be like this. I've got borders on there as well. And then what I did first is I mapped it all out to say, here are the blocks. I just went from the top of the page to the bottom, but I didn't want them all in the same order of how many are on the grid. So what I did is I used the randomizer and figured out a sewing order for them. So I'll show you my first spin at the end of this, and then we'll go from there. I'm not going to show you the spin on every single one, but that's just how I came up with this order. And so now I've got everything all cut. That's what all these little X's mean. Here's all my notes for each and every block so that I can figure out background, different colors, what's what, so they're all in the cutting order for each color. And that's all my blocks. And then I've got them all stacked in order from here, from start to finish. So everything is cut, ready for day one. And so we're going to start making our way through the piles. So let's go ahead and spin that wheel and then see what block number one's going to be. So also a little bit of behind the scenes so that you see my my studio area that we're going to be working in. I've got my machine here, my Janome 9480. I'm going to be using my AccuFlex foot, which is that beautiful scant 1/4 inch foot with my HP plate. So I'm going to have hopefully as perfect a piecing as I can. This, you saw that, you got all my blocks in there. I'm going to have my little ironing station right here. Since these blocks are going to be small, it's going to go real quick right here. My little Aliso travel iron is in that blue guy. So I'm going to get that all set up. So then as we start assembling blocks, it's just going to be go time. So let's check back in and get ready to get going.
So now that you've seen the behind the scenes, it's now time to get ready and gear up for our Quiltmas block starting tomorrow. One thing that I loved about this website, and I think you'll love it too, is it's not just all traditional piecing blocks. There are some paper piece ones in there too. So throughout the course of the next 25 days, you're gonna get a little traditional piecing, a little bit of paper piecing, a little bit of everything all mixed in together to make these star blocks. And then probably on the 26th, after we make it through the 25 days of Quiltmas, that's going to be the day that we assemble, we do the sashing, and turn this into a finished quilt. So Quiltmas is just going to keep on quilting this year, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun. So let's go ahead and spin that wheel so you can see how it's all going to come together and get us all ready to kick off our official first Quiltmas block being made tomorrow. So I'll spin that wheel, and I'll see you again soon.